The Path of the Beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for a bit of palaver on Hey! Yes, to Stephen King. That is right, my favorite author. As you see by the tower of books that is behind me, we are slowly trudging through the post-100th episode, the new era of Hail to Stephen King. And it's funny, I was on the Facebook group just the other day, and I saw Jacob mention, he was like, can I admit that I really miss the old bookshelf? And you know what? In some ways, there's a part of me that definitely does. I've actually been contemplating just a wee bit. Maybe when I reach episode 119, I might try to switch something up, do something different, but not reverting back, but just, you know, alteration, changing, so on and so forth. But I digress. We are here today on this scarific Saturday. I also do this show every terrifying Tuesday, provided we don't have another piece of coverage that has to jump into that evening time slot. And so that's just something to keep in mind. I know all of you saw my last version of Films That Forgot the Face of Their Father on a Wednesday instead, but that was because Cecil had scheduled an interview with the actor who plays Art the Clown in Terrifier. So check that out if y'all get the opportunity. But yeah, so just to really cut to the chase and get to it, in September, we just recently celebrated the 25th anniversary, I believe it is, of none other than Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And I have been on record various times to say that I'm not the biggest fan of this as a whole, but that does not mean that I don't think it has a really decent selection of badass stories. It's about like, to quote some old friends of mine, it's like 70-30, 60-40, something like that. But the ones that I enjoy, though, I genuinely, like, in the depths of my heart, absolutely adore. And so I basically came up with the idea since September was so busy with my birthday, Sai King's birthday, you know, both of my little brothers are in September, my sister-in-law is in September, Cecil's birthday's in September, my guitar player's birthday. It's just September. When you trace it back 9 months, yeah, that's where you basically, you're like, oh, it's the holidays. People are, it's cold. People get close. It's funny. And so with the busyness of September, I did not get the chance to do like proper anniversary coverage for this particular collection of short stories, but I was like, you know, let's, for the Hail Ka-Tet especially on the Facebook group, let's tackle 2 short stories a week, and then let's just have a video on Saturday at the end of the week, and, you know, I will discuss them. So I was choosing, handpicking, obviously, 2 stories each week, and so that'll be for a total of 8 of them, and I'm trying to pair ones together that I feel like have, I guess, similar sensibilities, tone, stuff like that. And so the 2 that I went with for this inaugural week of coverage of Nightmares and Dreamscapes for its anniversary is My Pretty Pony and The End of the Whole Mess. Now, just to preface, neither of these are horror stories per se. In fact, My Pretty Pony is just kind of a cautionary, dramatic kind of, you know, almost like a parable, I think is what, you know, somebody had described it as at one particular point. And I totally feel that. And it's one that hits me in the feels, and I look forward to discussing it, at least for a few minutes here with y'all. And then also, The End of the Whole Mess, it's kind of got a post-apocalyptic vibe, but it's written in the first person, like journal entry kind of thing, as this guy is, his demise is, it's already on set, and he's just trying to give, you know, some sort of documentation, you know, some sort of information, you know, for whatever may come afterwards. And it's a great story. They did a Dollar Baby for My Pretty Pony, and it's apparently being developed into something with Tobin Bell right now, with Josh Boone producing, so that's kind of cool. Feature film status. And then for The End of the Whole Mess, it was adapted with Ron Livingston in the lead role as Bow Wow, or whatever he calls him. For the TNT Nightmares and Dreamscapes, where they took 8 different episodes, and each one tackled a different Stevie K short story, although ironically not all of them from Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I thought that was kind of strange. They had some stuff from Everything's Eventual and, you know, other entries and stuff like that. But I am going to jump into the one that I guess this is really kind of a top 8, you know, of my feelings about Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And so at number 8, this is one that I really recommended to Lily a lot and various other viewers, and that's My Pretty Pony. My Pretty Pony is about this young boy who really, really looks up to his grandfather, and his grandfather's time is running out. The Wheel of Ka that's going to end his existence is almost turned all the way around. The Wheel of Ka, you know, Wheel of Time and stuff like that. And so he's like, hey, let's walk out to the apple blossoms, apple orchard, whatever kind of area. And he wants to just impart some wisdom about the nature of time to his grandson. And the cool thing about this story is before it was collected in 1993, it was originally released in 1989. You had Barbara Kruger illustrating it, and they did a couple different editions. There was like a super limited edition with I think like a run of 250, and then there was like a larger, more coffee table size, and then there was like a steelbook kind of craziness, and then there was a larger, more mass market run and stuff like that. This is actually one of the white whales that it's not like Moby Dick status to try to obtain. It's just one that I have not gotten around to. I didn't even become aware of it until a couple of years ago. And so this joins the crew along with Insomnia, the deluxe edition of The Wind Through the Keyhole, and then, you know, some of the original Dark Tower books, which I was just looking on eBay the other day, guys, and I was like, oh boy, for, you know, the Gunslinger, they're like asking price is like $600. It's insane, but, you know, hey, when the horror show is making mad money, I'll just throw it all at, you know, silly Stephen King collecting instead of in small incremental amounts and stuff. But My Pretty Pony is really about the grandfather explaining the truth of time, okay? And there's something that happens early on where there's a game of hide and seek going on, and there's this kid who, he counts to 60, but he just like rapid fires through it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, Micro Machine status, dude. And the grandson gets like seen and revealed right away, and you know, he's like the first to be caught, and it's really craptastic and stuff like that. And so that factors in. I'm really not going to try to spoil these stories supremely, just give my thoughts and, you know, ideas about them and stuff. But with that hide and seek aspect and with the fast counting of that kid, it's factored in by the grandfather about how, you know, people have different perceptions of time dependent on you know, where they are in their life, dependent on circumstance and things of that nature. And he essentially classifies time as being there's 3 kinds of time. You know, there is when you're young, and it's like summer vacation seems like it lasts forever. And, you know, I still remember when I was in those early years, and it was like, oh my goodness, even getting out of a class, for God's sake, when I was like in grade school, felt arduous and forever. And there's even, you know, certain slow days at the day job where there's nothing going down, hence this, you know, snazzy attire, kind of. And it's like time is going by like sludge, as I describe it. But that's more so than any other time in our lives characteristic of when we're young, you know. And then, as the grandfather says in the story, at about 14 or so it's like when you're segueing into those teenage years, that's where time starts to ramp up. It starts to get a little bit faster and stuff like that. It's like, okay, we're going punk rock, thrash metal tempo kind of thing. And it maintains that particular speed, if not just increasing and going faster, for a good like 3-4 decades, you know, seriously. It's not until you're like late 50s, early 60s, if you're blessed enough to actually get to that point where you encounter the third stage of time, the third kind of time. And that's where, as he describes it, it's like the time when you were a child, but it's backwards. You know, and it's like time slows back down. And he gives this pocket watch to his grandson, and he's there instructing him, and you know, just kind of having some recollections himself and stuff like that. I really enjoy this story, man. I especially enjoy the part where he's saying that he gets called for jury duty, and this was one of the first times where he realized that time was slipping, his grasp was waning, and he's like, they made me stand up and they asked me how old I was, and even though I was right around my 50s, my immediate inclination was to respond, I'm 37. I'm not far off from that. So it's just crazy to it's a very bittersweet story and kind of sad, you know, not kind of sad, really sad, especially for the sheer fact that we all know that our time is limited, and especially as you get more in the hubbub and the trudge of everything, you know, everyday life, whether it's family, whether it's work, whatever it may be. I think getting into a routine, which we've even been in a routine here on the horror show for many years now, that's where the time you like blink and you're just like, holy smokes, I've been doing Hail to Stephen King for almost 2 years. I've been on the horror show for over 4 years. We've got over 23,000 subscribers now. It's nuts. And so, yeah, this is a story that I purposefully selected because it has for me that similar melancholy and just bittersweet beauty that it does. And so it's not scary or anything like that, but just like the imparted lessons from, you know, one generation down to another. It's a story I really, really enjoy, and I'm curious what, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, May 2017 they announced Tobin Bell, who plays Jigsaw, I'm presuming in the grandfather role. Josh Boone is a big Stephen King fan. He's been trying to do, he was pen pals as a kid with King. He's been trying to get Revival off the ground. He's been trying to put together this The Stand miniseries for CBS All Access. So he has an affinity for Sai King, for El Rey, and I'm very curious what a lengthier adaptation of this could entail. And so yeah, that's my thoughts, everybody, on My Pretty Pony. One last thing that I definitely don't want to forget to mention is that this story was apparently originally, when King was working on it in the late 80s, it was going to be a flashback in a full novel proper. And so the full novel proper was about a hitman, and it was about this guy who's doing all kinds of crazy things, and then he's like thinking back to his childhood and advice that was imparted. It was going to be a Bachman book, but obviously everybody knows Bachman was unveiled, so to speak, and he went on to write The Dark Half, and, you know, just kind of worked those personal demons of secrecy or whatever out of him. And I guess from what I was researching, King just got sour on the idea and just, I don't know, he couldn't think of where to go with the big time narrative, and so he's just like, okay, I'll turn it into a coffee table book, and that'll be that. So My Pretty Pony, whether you seek out the coffee table book or whether you read it here in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, I totally recommend it. It's one that'll get you in the feels, but not scary, just to keep in mind. So next one is, for me, it's totally one of the best stories in this collection. It's called The End of the Whole Mess, and it was written in 1986 and published in, well, it was published in 1986 for Omni magazine, and then King published it again in 2008 in a collection called Wasteland Stories of the Apocalypse, and then it has that aforementioned adaptation for the TNT anthology series that King put together with Jim Henson's Creature Shop. I enjoy the series enough, but honestly for me there's really only 2 entries that I think are stellar, one of which is Crouch End with Claire Forlani from Mallrats and Meet Joe Black. I want to say she was in that too. Super British babe. And then the other one being this one with Ron Livingston, and it's essentially told from the first person perspective, and I'm trying to remember if I mentioned at the very beginning that I've read these stories and then I also audiobooked these stories. And the cool thing that they did with Nightmares and Dreamscapes is they released it in 3 different chunks, although if you're not an Audible person, if you have an audiobooks.com subscription instead, same $15 a month, as opposed to having to get them in separate installments with your credits, so that would be $45, you can get the entire thing. They just mushed it all together into one credit for the same price, which is pretty bitchin'. The only thing is there's no chapter skipping, and that's kind of lame. But long story short, King brought on, and his audio team, all of these different noteworthy actresses, actors, you know, filmmakers, so on and so forth, musicians. You've got you had Jerry Garcia actually read My Pretty Pony for this. You had, oh boy, so many other people. Whoopi Goldberg is involved. Boy, Cronenberg reads a story. Tim Curry reads a couple stories, including the Sherlock Holmes one, which is pretty dope. But I thought Matthew Broderick did a tremendous job of reading this, and it really is like, you know, almost like as opposed to, you know, reading a journal entry, in the fashion in which it's told, in the fact that it's all from the first person perspective, you know, it's all firsthand, you know, journal entry kind of thing, it works very well as you thinking, okay, he just had a little audio recorder and he was just trying to document it and speak, and it's really, really well done, especially as you realize what is setting in the back half. And so essentially the end of the whole mess is about these two brothers. The older one is, you know, it's the Ron Livingston character in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and he's a freelance writer in the short story. In the TNT adaptation, he's a documentary filmmaker, award-winning, in fact, you know, very noteworthy. And that actually lends itself really well to the adaptation because of the fact that it's like, you know, he just turns on the camera and he's talking about everything that was happening, and it's really cool. And then they incorporate flashbacks and stuff. But so his younger brother, though, we're talking like graduates high school when he's 10 years old, as put like Doogie Howser, beyond, you know, like prodigy of prodigies and stuff like that. And so, you know, very, very book smart, incredible intellectual ability, and yet just very disillusioned, and it really sets in, especially as he gets a little bit older, with just the aggression in mankind, with the hostility, with the anger, and with the violence, and it's something that weighs very heavily on his heart. And so he's going on these different research trips and stuff like that, and as he's aging, and, you know, older brother, who is the one from whose perspective we have the story being told from, you know, he's, you know, trying to up his career and, you know, up his prominence and stuff like that. But yet younger brother is doing all this traveling and all this soul searching and trying to figure out what his true north is, you know, what he wants to focus all of this firepower that his brain has, you know, against, you know, what he's going to try to combat, what he's going to try to conquer, what he's going to try to improve. And he gets like visions of grandeur, man, grandiosity as it goes. And it eventually gets to the end game of him finding this place just like, it's like 40 miles from Waco in Texas. Texas being, at least as King states in this particular short story, like the most violent state in the Union, you know, all kinds of stuff. And now granted, keep in mind, this isn't me. Hey, my little brother lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for many years, went to Dallas Baptist University. I have lots of friends from Houston, San Antonio, you know, Austin is badass. I've got friends in that area as well, which is super artistic. But so I think there is a slight askew aspect of reality in this, because it is like, it's in the not too distant future. There's a lot of references that King makes to, you know, all kinds of germ warfare going on, and, you know, terrorists dropping, you know, the AIDS virus, and just all kinds of crazy things. And so he does make reference to stuff that never happened before or after in history. And so it's like that cautionary tale of the not too distant future. And so in the water, in this place 40 miles from Waco, is where the younger brother discovers that all the people are docile and they all get along, and it's super cool, and everything is like super copacetic, harmonic, you know, so happy together, you know, hippie status, yo. And he decides that it's something in the water. Well, he doesn't decide, he determines it's something in the water. And what he wants to do is go and drop this into a volcano, so that in turn, when this volcano bursts, it blankets the entire earth, and everybody is exposed to this protein that's in the water that is going to just make everybody all cool, you know, and we're all, you know, can't we all just get along? We're all going to get along. But without spoiling anything, because I really feel like I've almost given too much of you know, what this is all about, there's a catch. There's always a catch, right? You know, to something like this. And it's like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, that old saying. And so it's just so well put together. And I must say, as much as I enjoyed rereading this, just once again, the fashion in which it's constructed with the first person, you know, just like, you know, firsthand entries being, you know, documented and everything. Broderick kills this, especially at the very end, where the narrative gets a little bit more skewed, or not just the narrative, just like the writing, as his mind is going different places, you know. And oh God, it's so good. This story it's probably, now that I think about it, I can't remember if I mentioned it in my top Stephen King short stories, but this might, especially with this reread and this first listen, it might have moved up in the ranks, and I cannot recommend the TNT version enough. I actually thought it was a very effective adaptation. It's got great rankings on IMDb and, you know, Dread Central and various other places, and so yeah, that's me very, very vigilantly telling you that you should not only read The End of the Whole Mess, but you should go and, you know, try to track down that TNT episode. It's really dope. I don't know if it's floating around on the YouTubes. Probably is, or, you know, I know all of you have other illegitimate means of watching things. So, yeah, there you have it, peeps. That is my thoughts on My Pretty Pony, which is beautiful, bittersweet, and then The End of the Whole Mess, which hits you in the feels in a different fashion. Once again, neither of these are scary stories, but they're King working within the dramatic confines that he has proven time and time again, whether it's Shawshank or Green Mile or Hearts in Atlantis or whatever, that he can very effectively tell a story, impart emotion, and just do a damn good job about it. And so, yeah, I look forward very much to next Saturday when we will have 2 more stories. I'm going to be announcing that on the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group on Monday, so stay tuned on there. If you're not a member, I'm the sole admin, so jump on, request your presence, and I approve pretty much everybody. The only stipulation is that we only talk King stuff, so it's not like super social club or anything like that, but, you know, we factor it in at times, you know, but it's all about El Rey, it's all about the love for Sai King and anything with relation to him, and, you know, we've got like almost 300 peeps on there, but it's a closely knit Ka-Tet where we have so many people, you know, from, you know, Jim to Andrew to just all of these different peeps who, you know, Jacob, who I mentioned earlier. It's just a very closely knit Ka-Tet, as I always say, which is one thing that makes me so humbled and honored to, you know, be a part of that and experience that Kev. It's pretty dope. So, I've been Jaime Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagrizzle, Face, Bizzle, the evils of the fake book, YouTube. I'm just kidding about Facebook. But, yeah, on YouTube you can see all of the old episodes of Infuegotainment and, you know, anticipate and keep a tab on the new stuff that is coming soon. So, yes, and if you have not subscribed here to the horror show, please do. Yeah, hit the bell so you get all of the notifications about when new episodes of Hail to Stephen King go up on Tuesdays and Saturdays, usually. And we also do movie reviews. We just reviewed Venom, which was trash. You know, Cecil just did a very cool reaction and breakdown of the latest Aquaman trailer. So there's reactions there. We're going to be covering next weekend the Halloween 40th anniversary festivity convention thing that's going down. So, I mean, there's so much cool stuff in the pipeline, especially here in the month of October. And my next episode, this upcoming Tuesday, is going to be all about the Entertainment Weekly that I just got done reading this fatty article and gazing at all these great photos about the new version of Pet Sematary that is coming from the team behind Starry Eyes. It's got a killer cast. I'm uncertain about a few things, but I'm really pumped about a lot of others, and so that's what y'all can look forward to on Tuesday. I have been Jaime Fuego. You have been awesome. You can just call me Fuego for short, though. And until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, I say hasta luego! Sin amigos. I hope that we get to reconnect sooner rather than later, and until that awesome instance transpires, remember, stay scared and read Stephen King's Nightmares and Dreamscapes, especially The End of the Whole Mess.